Welcome everybody to the Steady Mobbin Podcast. This is a new episode, one of the ones we call Explain That. And today we are on the ball. I told y'all we're going to have conversations with people you can't talk to. To my right, I have
Glory.
And to my far right, I have a special guest by the name of
Liam Mooney.
Liam Mooney is the person, one of the people behind the comeback brand against the Donald Trump rhetoric recently shot out of Washington or wherever he's from, or Mar-a-Lago at the time, wherever he's at the time. Talking about, engulfing Canada to a 51st state.
Cool.
This
idea.
gentleman here shot back and made sure Doug Ford wore this on one of Doug Ford's, what was it? His, was it the
First Minister's meeting.
For the year.
It was it's the meeting where all the premiers get together, and this one was particularly important because it was about the Canada-U.S. crisis, perhaps. Yeah.
So you woke up so you're sitting on your couch with your partner watching Fox News, the rhetoric.
Yeah.
How did it hit you?
Well, Trump for a little while before that had been doing this whole 51st state thing and all the annexation stuff, and already disrespected and feeling, confused by that. And he's on with Waters, Premier Ford, and Waters is kind of ribbing him and kind of digging in pretty hard, saying a lot of people around the world would just love to be American. Why wouldn't you want to be American? That makes no sense to me. Kind of makes me want to invade you even more.
Yeah.
And so it was at that point we were sort of looking at each other like, is this for real? Is this guy? How is this?
Twilight Zone.
What is
Here we
going
go
on?
again.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah, we're a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
Say what you will of anybody's particular politics, but Canadians are Canadian.
Absolutely.
And we love our country.
Yes.
So, Emma and I looked at each other across the couch and we said, well, we got to do something about this, especially because just earlier that week, Prime Minister Trudeau had announced his intention to resign.
Yes.
And even before that, the federal response was a bit disorganized and felt perhaps even impotent. And so, not that we were of the opinion that we individually could make a significant change.
Yeah.
We did feel that, there was something we could do.
Absolutely.
So we put our design skills to work. We're creatives, we're designers, we're people who really care about Canada. We're Canadians who love our country. And so we spun up a Shopify store, Amazing Ottawa, Canada Success Story. And we, by that night, we had a store with some hat designs, made a sale. But, it was like, if you're going to talk about Canada in the sense of a hostile corporate takeover.
Right.
And that's sort of the angle it sounds like, it's like, well, no, we're not for sale.
No. Yeah.
You're not going to buy us. Doesn't matter what you think. And you can't back us into a corner. We won't be bought. We won't be sold. And just, felt incumbent upon us that we had to remind at least ourselves that
We're still a nation.
we're still a nation, and that actually
And we're proud.
we're an amazing country. If you
Yeah.
look around the world, Canada stands alone as a very unique nation, especially in the Western world.
You're right.
Yeah. And I want to give you and your partner a lot of props and your flowers, because I feel like at least for the last 3-4 years, there's been a sense of pride in our country that's been missing. A lot of infighting, with COVID and, people just being really unhappy with government.
Yeah.
And seeing Doug Ford wear this hat,
Yeah.
I was like, holy frig. It hit home. It's like, yes, I am Canadian. We are not for sale. And it gave me a sense of pride.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's
Honestly.
awesome. That's so
and this
cool.
is before I even knew we were interviewing you.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, wow, yeah, came at a great time. So kudos to you and your
Thank you.
partner. It's a great idea. And I can't wait to rock it. It's
Awesome.
beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, well, those are for you guys. You guys can put them on tonight.
Thank you so
We will.
much.
We
And
will.
I've heard from a lot of people who've had them. It's a really surreal experience, and I've lived it. People will nod. They'll want to know where it
Yes.
came from, but you make an interesting point. That was one of our, sort of as we're spinning it up, we're thinking, it's really been hard for Canadians over the last few years to feel that pride.
Yeah.
And, it's sort of a challenge in Canada in general to sort of, a lot of people don't necessarily want to wrap themselves in the flag.
Yes.
And this is channeled a way for a lot of people to say, I love my country. Canada's amazing. And yeah, we're not for sale. So I'm going to participate in this because it's cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I have a joke, and it goes like this. I've never seen so many people.
It's not going to be funny. So I'm just letting you know.
I've never seen.
Every time he says he has a joke, it's never
So
It's a setup.
have you seen like the recent rhetoric online against Indian people, like Indians are invading in Canada? I've never seen so many Canadians join into something that was so positive.
Yeah.
In such a small time.
It's awesome.
Then the chat's under $6 about.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
So this is refreshing. This is absolutely refreshing. I really wanted to have you on, and I wanted to also dig into you as a person rather than just like the guy who creates the Canada's not for sale hat. You have a business. You have a design company. I wanted to ask you, how do you move in a world where everybody feels like they're a business, and you're basically teaching businesses on how to like navigate in the new world. Like everybody thinks they're a business.
Right.
How do you separate yourself from the pack?
Well, we just move. That's one thing. We try not to overthink things. And I think, like in this example, these hats, it's like the oldest industry in the world, the textiles industry. But then it's existing in a completely new modern context. It's AI, it's digital, it's e-commerce, it's direct to customer, and it's this sort of tension between these two things. And I could tell you the last week, it's been like an MBA in a week. Every aspect that you could imagine. Like, we're running a services company, and now we're designing our own specialized manufacturing and supply chain. We're buying raw materials. We're buying hats. We're looking to bring as much as possible manufacturing into Canada. And so when it comes to teaching other people about business, I think they can just learn by doing. Action produces information. And so, we try not to lecture people. We just try to be a part of their journey. We try to understand what they're trying to accomplish and hear them out, and just see if there's tweaks or things that we could do differently using design, using strategy, and strategy being like, not necessarily a list of actions. Okay, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's like, what's your goal? If you are going to marshal all your resources and energy, where are you trying to get to? And so that's what we really try to help people clarify doing. And in a world where, you mentioned like everyone's a brand or everyone's a business, just put out good vibes into the universe. Yep. Try to do a good thing. Try to be good and real with people. And if you can, take design thinking and apply that, you might be able to curb some of the, like if you just imagine like capital is something that hides in a cave and it's very harsh, it's very intense.
Yeah.
A lot of like large businesses, they need design. Like, so if you're Procter and Gamble, you have a giant, beast living in a cave, it needs design to give it a face, to smooth the harsh edges, to come out and interact in the real world. So, it's, I've been a teacher at a university for the better part of a decade, on and off. Awesome. And, so education is a big part of what we're about, and just working with people, hearing them out. And nobody wants to be told they're wrong. I could tell you that. I've done that. Yeah. It's not a great way of doing things from a business perspective. So just finding ways to have the conversations to push your client or to push the group you're working with to think differently, be creative, but not without purpose. That's one of the things you can get into trouble with. It's like, being creative all the time, which I have a lot of creative energy. I'm constantly bringing that. I have to kind of restrain myself and just say, okay, how can we channel this in a way that isn't going to overwhelm and will be focused and give us a good chance to be successful? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does.
In hip hop, we have a saying called "pop your shit." So for the viewers
I love that.
Are not familiar with you, can you just lay out your credentials, your background, like the things you've done, your education, like just pop your shit, just flex
Sure.
a little bit so people
Cool.
know, like, you know, you're not just some guy who's just doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, you're born to do this.
Well, I was born in Mississauga.
Yeah.
I grew up.
Hello.
Yeah,
Which
that's
part?
right.
I'm curious.
Well, I was born in Credit Valley Hospital.
Okay.
But I grew up in Scarborough, and and you know, I grew up in a working class family, and grew up with a lot of challenges, a lot of really difficult things, but something that really has shaped me as a person. I'm the oldest of 5, and my mom was born in Germany and raised by French Canadians. So I was a bit of an anomaly in that way. I was raised speaking French in Scarborough.
Wow.
But I always tell people, when the world moves to Canada, they move to Scarborough. And so while I was unique in that way, I was in an extremely diverse community as it was. And so I went from there. I went to Trent University in Peterborough after living in Oshawa for a while. That was an interesting place to live. You know, you see the auto manufacturing sector and its role in Canada, and then its decline.
Yeah.
And you see manufacturing jobs leaving our country, and how that has impacted and rotted out, you know, the ability for families to live and thrive. And so I sort of took all of those experiences. I went to Trent University in Peterborough. I did a degree in political studies there. I ended up being the president of the student union there. Was very an intense time, actually. You know, I tell people, when the stakes are so low, people will behave, you know, in kind of, you know, bizarre ways. And so while I was president there, I was dealing with a lot of hostile, adversarial kind of opponents.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
And
Like far left guys.
you know, just people with different views.
Sure.
You know, and
Strong views.
very strong views. One person ended up being a minister in Trudeau's cabinet many years later.
Oh yeah.
And
You want to drop a name?
so I'll tell you, I was standing in a big event hall, like, what year was that? 2015, I guess. And it was just after the cabinet had been sworn in, and the cabinet with the prime minister were in that event, in this hall. And I see her from across the room, and she sees me from across the room, and she's, "What the are you doing here?" And I look at her and said, "What the F are you doing here?" You know, and just kind of chatted a bit. And but we remembered those days. You know, they were really intense times. So anyway, I went from there. I moved to Ottawa, where I've been now for the last 15 years. I consider myself an Ottawan. And
Ottawa.
yeah, an Ottawan.
Oh
Yeah,
my God,
that's
sorry.
it. So, you know, it's a city that has a really strange tension. It has the sort of the town and the crown. You know, it's how do you have this identity of being a place, being a city, but then also being the capital of a country, especially as we've talked about in the last few years. It's been really hard. So Ottawa's struggled in a lot of ways to kind of navigate that tension. But anyway, I've been there. I worked in a bunch of different organizations, companies. Before starting Jack Pine, the design firm that Emma and I own, I started a farm called City Crops.
Oh yeah.
And
within the city.
Yeah, so the idea was to take unused agricultural lands in front yards, backyards, and side yards, and transform them into productive agricultural lands for people.
Wow.
And we would harvest every few days once the things got going, and we would sell via Facebook. You know, there was at the time where, you know, you'd still post like, "Hey, I'm, you know, hanging out today." You kind of, you know, you'd share your whole life on Facebook. It was still sort of in that era. And
Whereabouts in Ottawa?
all over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like even into Chelsea, Quebec.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we were regionally all over the place. We had one on River Road down by the airport. We had them in Sandy Hill. We had them in Old Ottawa South, like all the different neighborhoods. You know, we were sort of thinking like, where would somebody want to buy their conscience, you know? And so as a way of marketing, we went to a place that sells vegetables to like restaurants, wholesale. And so I go to this place, and there's trucks showing up, like big white cube vans. Everybody's like hacking darts and, you know, like grabbing heads of lettuce and in boxes and putting it in there. And I guess they would take that and like bomb out to different places and drop them off. So I go in there, and they're like, what are you doing here? You know, you don't fit in this equation. And I just wanted a big bag of carrots. And the guy's like, whatever, sure. This is how much it costs, like $30 and like, you know, 100 carrots or 200 carrots. I don't remember. Giant bag, okay? Yeah. We created this tag. It said, "Meet Mr. Carrot." He was picked 2.5 weeks ago by a machine, traveled 3,246 kilometers to get here. There has to be a better way. And then you open it up on the inside and it says, we're City Crops Co. We plant organic heirloom vegetable and herb gardens. No shipping, no wilting, front yards, backyards, side yards,
Amazing.
delivered by bike. Call us today.
Amazing.
Put the phone number.
It's clever.
And then we wrapped those little carrots up with a piece of twine with that tag, and we targeted certain neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And we were instantly getting phone calls, dozens and dozens of phone calls, hundreds of phone calls, get into the various local newspapers. And it taught me a lot, actually, whereas there's a section of the farm, my partner at the time, Laura, and I were running this, and we had all these melons. It's like, why are the leaves green but like completely wilted? Mm-hmm. And it didn't really make sense to us. And we kind of discovered, there's a little bug, and he's eating or he or she or all the bugs are eating this plant. And what happens if it starts gorging on the plant, it kind of gets like a little bacteria, and it transfers that bacteria to the plant, and it basically means that plant will no longer be able to send water to certain parts of it. And so you see what's called bacterial wilt. Oh, yeah. And we learned that, the way you kind of combat this in an organic environment would be to have a biodiversity. So you'd plant other plant life, which introduces other insect life, which kind of keeps the ecosystem in balance. So you make some mistakes like that, but you learn an awful lot. And, when I started Jack Pine, like a couple of years later, it really informed the way that I wanted to approach creativity and design. I still to this day, Emma has a degree in architecture. I come from politics, at least in the traditional studies. And our studio in Chinatown at that time had people from economics, industrial design, urban design, literature, technology. The idea was to create that organic farm, but with human beings who had unique perspectives to bring. And because we didn't want to have bacterial wilt. We didn't want to have that kind of monoculture.
How long did it take for you to find out that was the solution?
Well, intuitively, I knew, that's why we called it even Jack Pine, because the idea was creative destruction, the panarchy loop. So it's, there are going to be certain things that are going to help your organism grow. Yeah. But then once you reach a state of maturity, you need to sort of find ways to take elements that are no longer working or supporting growth and push them towards your transformation or your new cycle of growth. And so the jack pine tree, it only grows through forest fire, which, we're talking a lot about in the news, climate change and things going on in Los Angeles right now. And so those pine cones, they only open once they're sufficiently heated. They're really bound together with resin, and then they pop open once they basically melt. Yeah. And all of that fire creates organic matter, goes onto the forest floor, and those seeds, they spray out into the organic material, and that becomes a matrix for new life. And so the idea was, we had a saying early on, there's no such thing as a bad idea, because
amazing.
Each idea, even if it wasn't the one, it was going to create that matrix of new life, or the matrix for which new life could come out of. And that some idea at some point in the pile of all those ideas was going to take root and grow. And so that was the name. That's where it came from. And learning from that process of running an organic farm, that was what informed the early decisions around how we built our team.
I was going to ask you who the fuck Jack Pine was.
No, not a person.
Great.
Not a person.
Great.
And then years later, just to pop my shit, I guess.
Yeah, pop your shit.
I just finished at OCAD University here in Toronto, a master's in design and strategic foresight and innovation. Yeah. You're working with executives and leaders and business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, staff of all levels of every organization, and you just constantly feel like I wish I could bring more to them. I want to deliver higher quality service. I want to bring more perspective. I want to push the solutions to a new level. And so being hungry like that, always learning, always wanting to engage, be creative. It was
that's a lot of schooling, man.
Yeah.
Damn, good for you.
But hey, it'll be worthless soon with AI, right? So I'm kidding.
So, how long do you think that? How far are we as a human being and a population where AI controls everything, where you have a robot flipping your burgers in front of you?
Well, I think some places already have robots flipping burgers.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking that is because that robot Elon Musk came out with recently is worth $20K. China trying to release one for 16,000.
Yeah,
Right.
there.
Like we're almost like we're literally they have pricing wars. Like, do you have like a time frame on like how long it'll be like where it's like people are like getting universal incomes?
No, I don't. I think the rate of technology advancement and is significant right now, and it's hard to, I'd heard things last year that by this time this year we'd be all
Universal income.
yeah, but that hasn't come to pass, and I think all technology there's a human factors component.
Yes.
Like you could have the best technology in the world, but if humans can't operate with it, it's not very useful. They put the Mars rover, and they had to send a satellite along with it to help it get down there. And everybody may know it famously crashed. I forget which part. I think it was a satellite. And basically, NASA and their engineering company, they were using different metric systems. Yeah. One was using imperial, one was using metric, and I forget all the details of this particular example, but the whole point was this is a very sophisticated technology, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. You figure all of these literal rocket scientists would be able to figure out, how to talk to one another and get something somewhere. But the instructions that the engineering company gave to NASA were written in a different measurement system. Yeah. And so they didn't realize it until it was on its way to Mars, and they had to kind of try a bunch of different mediative.
So you think a robot would have caught that?
Well, maybe. Who knows what would have happened in that context? But I guess what I'm saying is technology, when it comes to working with humans, human beings need to, there's just human factors, I guess. Yeah. And so will we be replaced? I don't think so, because, just try getting it to tell you a joke. It can't tell you a joke. No. It can't make you laugh. I mean, has it ever made you laugh?
No.
Maybe in just it being so bad?
I've had conversations with ChatGPT, and
okay.
It was kind of funny.
Okay.
Kind of.
You liked it?
It was kind of funny.
Okay. Fair enough.
So you're a political science major.
But now I'm a designer.
Now you're a designer.
That's my primary identity.
Do you ever just read newspapers or watch the news and be like, oh, that sucks, what's happening, and what? The reason why I'm asking that is because, given the fact with the whole talk about us becoming a 51st state, with Trump's economic push, do you feel Canada's borders are safe right now, and what would you do to change it?
I think we're very safe. I'm
the
very
northern border and bordering with China and Russia?
Well, we live in a complex global world, and there's always threats. Mm-hmm. That's always been that way since, the humans first emerged. They're dealing with the wild world around them and trying to communicate with one another and try to literally survive, create a fire, bring it over there, keep it going, find water, find food, fend off beasts, cooperate with dogs, tame horses, drive through the wilderness. That's been the human spirit, the human intrepid, adventurous spirit that drives us today to the point where we're now thinking about AI and, the singularity and whether or not we're in a simulation and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Feels like it.
Yeah, sometimes it does. I hope not, though.
Yeah. But he's asking you these probing questions because he's trying to find out where you land politically on the spectrum. That's all.
No.
Well, we make it clear. I'm a conservative, and Emma's a progressive. But, for me, this isn't about me specifically, this project. This is about all Canadians coming together around the idea that we're not for sale. We're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be disrespected. We're not going to be told, by our number one ally that it's a betrayal. It really is. So,
but are you surprised by it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you surprised? Really? You're surprised, but by him, saying the things that he's saying, and
he only said it after the election. It didn't come up until.
No, specifically that, yes, it came up after, but just knowing that, in my opinion, he's unhinged. He kind of just shoots at the hip and just says some ridiculous things literally all the time. It's just like, were you? I wasn't really surprised by it, to be honest with you.
I was shocked, definitely,
Really?
absolutely. He'd never said anything like that. It never come up. I do think, though, that maybe someone on his team at some point, I don't know when it got whispered into his ear, but
Look at Canada.
well, this idea that, look, sir, empires are either growing or dying. And you have to choose which state you want to be in as an empire. And that's made a lot of people around the world like have to stand up and wake up and be like, oh, whoa. Because the rhetoric is serious. The threats are real. And, that's why our politicians are standing up. That's why they are, but I think it took time for people to really come around to it just because it just was so shocking. Like so it's interesting that you saw that. Why did you?
Well, I mean, if I go back to 2021, January 6th, and, the rhetoric around that, I'm like, yeah, this guy's capable of anything.
Interesting.
And the way I see, he's pretty much loyal to himself, so he'll say whatever,
Interesting.
he feels like saying if he sees it as a benefit to him. So I wasn't really shocked. I hate the fact that it kind of gets watered down. People say that was just trolling, but it goes much deeper than that. You should never speak about an ally like that. That's like me talking about, taking something from you, and it's like, don't worry, don't take it serious. I'm just trolling, So it's just, like you said, it's a betrayal.
It is a betrayal. It's absolutely abhorrent. It's disgusting. We're a sovereign nation. We do everything together with the United States, and we share the world's longest border. We, to get into all the sort of tropes that the political class will say, we're their largest trading partner. And
the cultures are almost our cultures are almost like
they're similar, but they're different.
We're different, but it's like to an untrained eye, it's like almost identical.
And didn't he say we're responsible for the fentanyl getting into the U.S. or
yeah,
something to
he
that effect?
says we developed we developed the fentanyl over here.
Yeah, so it's like he's demonizing Canadians, and I don't understand the objective there. It's really confusing, and it's just
to try and
to
penetrate the national psyche, in some way. But we're stronger than that.
Yes.
Yes, he has a lot of bluster and powerful rhetoric, which is, the goal with this had once we saw like, okay, this is real. This is not going anywhere. It's like, well, how can we fight back? One of the ways we can do that is to subvert his most powerful symbol.
Great job.
Amazing.
Great job.
Amazing.
Now
which works so well. A lot of people wanted to copy it.
I'm thinking I might want the red one now.
So I've seen you told the story before, but just quickly in a nutshell.
Yeah.
How did you get this on Doug Ford's head?
I got a call early in the morning on Tuesday, the day before. Asked if we could get a couple hats. Premier was there the next day.
And how do they see those hats, his team?
We had put up the store maybe 5 days ago, like prior to that.
Went crazy.
There was a small local business paper, Ottawa Business Journal, had done a feature. Okay. And, it got circulated around the internet.
Absolutely. It's the city of Ottawa and everybody's connected.
It's a small world.
And I think it's just one of those things. As soon as you see, instantly, people just like, I need that.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I saw it. When I saw the hat, I'm like, I need that.
Cool.
Yeah, it was just instinctual.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure the sales are like crazy.
It's been a lot of work, I could tell you. We've been telling people in the news that, it's like a snake eating a bowling ball. We're kind of trotting along. We've got a few orders, some excitement locally, but then it's sort of exponential once he puts the hat on.
Yeah.
And all at once, really fast. And, it's continued to sustain itself. But to go back to how it happened, basically they said, can you get them to us today? I said, sure, absolutely. Of course, in my head, I was like, we don't have any supply here. I don't have any samples here. Like getting these samples for you guys has been hard enough. And this is like 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
So I said, the entrepreneur in me, the creative in me said, yes, of course. I just, you say jump, I say, how high? So hang up. And I said to Emma, I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And, running around the city, work with a bunch of small local companies. We're working with them now on a few projects actually related to this. So we're spreading some business back, which is great. And I ended up getting them to the Premier's team like late at night, around 7:30 kind of thing. Not that late.
Yeah.
But, it was like a 11, 12-hour initiative, just running around like a madman and turning over every stone, calling as many people as I could. And I found some blank hats. I got the artwork translated to a production file that we needed. And I got a little card for him, and quite literally a little card.
Yeah.
It said small card, big thank you, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just penned a little note for him.
Yeah.
And, we dropped it off, and they just said, look, he may wear it. We don't know what's going to happen here. We're going to give it to him at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
And I said, okay.
Fingers crossed, hoping that he wears it, and voila.
I said, Jesus, take the wheel.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
So in 2025, what does conservatism look like in Canada?
I think it means less taxes. I think it means more focus on small business and entrepreneurs. I think it means, looking at how to deliver the most help in the most effective way with our social programs. And I think it means, bringing everyone in on what it is to be Canadian and like kind of trying to reinvigorate that pride in our symbols, our history as a nation, our trajectory as a nation, our present day as a nation. That's one of the things I do find regrettable out there is just like from all walks of life, from all political persuasions up until this point is like, a lot of negativity about Canada. And it's like, if you zoom out, if you look at the world, it's like, to go back to that Jesse Waters conversation, like, okay, so everybody wants to be American according to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, if you were to ask countries around the world, would you like to have Canada as your neighbor, as your border, as your partner, as your friend?
Yes.
They would say yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Overwhelmingly, of course, because Canada's amazing. We show that you can be a pluralistic society that appreciates and pursues opportunity, that has a belief that hard work brings shared prosperity, and that we defend and uphold human rights. No country does any of those things perfectly. No country has done them perfectly since their inception.
Absolutely.
And Canada has a history that, is both proud and also, has to be worked out. But we're an amazing nation that we should be extremely proud of. Canada is a beautiful word,
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I came to Canada 40 years ago, and I see a huge change of how the immigrants are assimilated nowadays. Back then, in the late 80s, early 90s, the assimilation was really easy. I find it with the new guys coming in, the new crops coming in, it's really hard for them to assimilate here. Like I see people here who like Uber drivers or taxi. They've been in Canada for 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, and they still don't have a lick of English. It's like what's going on? Like what is happening? So
they can't speak English, or they can't speak English.
They can't speak English well, or they don't try, and B, there's no resources for them to learn English. I'm finding nowadays that it's like Canada is this brought it back to my pride.
Awesome.
But I felt like Canada was like also losing its edge. I'm not pointing fingers at Trudeau or the Liberals.
I
Because
think
it's
a lot of that hatred came during COVID for sure.
Yeah.
The trucking convoy, and it was a crazy.
that's another complex situation there.
Like it just,
But what I'm trying to say is like I just feel like this rejuvenated my pride in Canada.
That's so cool.
And I when I saw Doug Ford wear it
Like a boss.
like a boss, and him being a Trump fan, my question to you is how do you like? Are you a Trump fan? Like, do you like his rhetoric at all?
Aspects of his populism, like reshoring manufacturing.
Sure.
His ability to connect with the working class, working people. That's what populism is all about.
Right.
Is about connecting with
It's such
people.
an ugly word to people. Populism. Like I always hear on the news, populist politician. It's like they always try to frame it as an ugly thing.
Right.
But
When you cross the line like that, there's no there's nothing to talk about at that point. We have to love our country. We have to stand up for our country, you know? And Doug Ford's very clear about that too, as are all of our premiers, as our prime minister, our ministers. So, no, it's a line that's been crossed and it's abhorrent, and there's nothing to like about that.
So is that like there's no coming back from that in your opinion? And I don't know your stance when it comes to Trump or whatever. I'm making an assertion in my own head.
Yeah.
Right? But for you, is that like it's crossed the line?
Absolutely.
Okay,
that's like, that's, you know.
Yeah.
Do you get phone calls from his team?
From whose team?
The Trump team.
No.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody's like, hey, guy, we're gonna sue you. Or,
No.
Or attempt.
No, we haven't done anything that would warrant that.
Yeah. And I guess that goes to my original point with January 6th. If he was willing to do that to his own country, then it's not a surprise that he would do that to an ally. That's just my perspective.
You're in design.
Yes.
How would you change Canada's housing system, housing problem right now?
You know, an idea I've had for a while is that, you know, I grew up in Scarborough and Toronto, and I remember when Mel Lastman was mayor, and he brought in the army to shovel snow.
I remember that. I was watching that for a while.
Right? So, yeah, right. We switched places at one point. I always thought in the last few years, like, why aren't we calling in the army to build homes?
You know what? I said that to Maxime Bernier.
Interesting.
I said there needs to be some sub-government like group or some, like not sub-government group, but like some organization within the government to just build houses in every major city and not stop and have a quota. Move on to the next city.
Cool.
Get it done.
That's a great idea, though.
You know, why not?
Free.
Like
the army, the army, or the new guys coming in, the new immigrants coming in. Hey, if you know like have some sort of like a pathway to citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're a young male, you're in your 20s and 30s. Build houses for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Cool. You're a great thinker. I think we might have to hire this guy. You can take a look around and we need some help.
So we are not for sale, but we're open for business.
Here.
You know?
Remix.
So you think that they should send in the army?
That could be one way for sure. I think it would be a really cool thing to do. And there's also Habitat for Humanity. That's an example. So you're kind of talking about people building their own homes there.
How about prisoners?
That's I think the army and people building their own homes is quite an interesting one. I don't
we don't
know.
have a big prisoner problem in Canada.
Yeah, I guess
I'm not too sure about like how that one would work, but it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea, and I think that's the thing about creativity and design is you just explore ideas. You don't want to judge somebody, and I think, with this project, like, yeah, I'm a conservative. I support a lot of things that Doug Ford says and does. Emma doesn't, and she's going to be my wife.
How's the conversation?
Shout out to Emma.
Yeah, I wish she was here. She has to go back.
Conversations at home, like, and how do you?
We align on a lot of things. We love each other.
Yeah.
We run our household together. We run our business together. We don't. This is what we're hoping that people can get out of this project. Is like you don't need to see eye to eye on everything.
Absolutely.
You don't need to agree on, every policy discussion. You don't
disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you don't even need to align on the same like political figures. Like, if we can, at a baseline, just like respect and love our country, and see it for what it is, like from a realist standpoint, and say, okay, well, no country's perfect. Canada's amazing, and it's as close to perfect as a country can find itself.
Absolutely, man.
Love it.
So we try to focus more on like what we can do together. We try to focus more on where we are aligned, and we explore ideas every day. We talk. We're going to get married, and we've been together for a long time. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
When is the wedding?
October 4th.
October 4th.
Yeah,
In
it's going to be
Ottawa,
good in Ottawa.
Cool.
Quick
Well,
question.
technically in Elmer, Quebec, but in Ottawa.
Elmer's a beautiful place.
Quick
Yes.
question.
Very beautiful.
Yes.
What Canadian celeb would you love to get a hat to?
Ooh.
If you could just choose one.
That's an interesting question. Has anybody come to mind for you guys that you think would be very appropriate?
I would like to see Cardinal Fischel wearing one.
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that's
would
good.
definitely wear
Hey,
one.
Cardi, we got a half of you. Maybe you can come interview with us. Too.
That would be awesome. As a Scarborough
Cardi.
boy,
Let's throw Drake in there.
that'd be cool. Drake was one that had come to mind. Yeah.
Justin.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
But he's American now.
Was Choclair Canadian?
Choclair's Canadian.
Yeah. he's
Choclair would be cool.
Choclair would be cool. I have his number.
Celine Dion.
Jono Vision.
Why does that sound so
It was a
familiar?
TV show on
I remember,
CBC.
I remember.
I don't know his actual
You
name
remember
though.
television. I know you do. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I wasn't born yet. Polkaroo?
George Stroumboulopoulos, maybe.
Whoa, Strombo.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he'd rock that for sure. He'd rock that for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. But did you choose a name, or you just going with like anybody we mentioned you'd like to get a hat to? Because I asked you if you wanted.
Yeah,
if
who'd
you had a
you rock? Who'd
particular
you
celebrity in
want to rock? Wanted to rock right? This
Strombo.
Strombo?
Yeah.
George, I got your number. We can
Awesome.
make it happen. I have
Very cool.
I can line it up.
He's a beauty.
Yeah, I can,
Yeah.
You know what? I'll text him and say.
I don't know if he's still doing a show on CBC at night on Sundays or the weekend.
So no, he has an Apple show. He's
on
based in
Apple,
LA.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I found it hard. Like I remember that now that you mentioned that, and I found it hard to like find when it was live, or I don't know if it's all taped, but
Yeah.
it's the CBC radio programming. I really wish they kind of get back to some of those live music shows. I mean, I know they still do them, but Strombo show. There was a lady named Lori Brown who used to do a show. It was really cool with music, and then
the other guy who's sharp and great.
Gameshi.
Gameshi. He had a great show.
Yeah, it was a very popular show.
He had a great show.
Yeah. Actually, we'd like you to come by the podcast. Let's
he doesn't
talk.
want
And what's his name?
Give him time.
Oh my goodness, Vinyl Tap was the name of his.
Yes.
Was the name of his show? I think. Yeah, it was Vinyl Tap with Bachman, Randy Bachman. I'm pretty sure that's who the host was. I could be wrong. Anyway, he had a wicked music show on CBC.
Was it 80s?
No,
It just recently ended,
Yeah,
like
really?
within the last couple of years.
yeah.
Yeah. COVID. I don't know, something cuts something. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but it's a shame because, again, that's another thing that brings people together is music and culture and food. And like when you take away those touchstones, all you get left are like what divides us. And we need to kind of come back around a lot of those things that bring us together.
How do you pronounce Putin?
Poutine.
Say it again.
Poutine.
Did you say Putin?
No.
You're saying it in the,
I did get a request to do some interviews with Russian media.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Good.
How does
So
that work? Like Russia Today? Or
I forget the name. I don't want to mispronounce it, but
in the
they
base
had
out of Toronto?
Russia.
Oh, okay. And it's online Zoom?
I don't know how they were going to do it, but they
Don't
sent
go
out
over
a
there.
shout out, and they wanted to know if I was interested. It's been global. We were in Hong Kong. We've been all over Europe. The Daily Mail in the UK, The Guardian.
You have a beautiful message, so I think,
Thank you.
If you could get your word out to Russia and Hong Kong, dude.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Before we let you go,
Yeah.
who was your favorite prime minister? Or give me two. Actually, you know what? Give me 4 of your favorite prime ministers.
Like a Mount Rushmore?
Like a
Wow,
Mount Rushmore.
nice. That's a
Wow.
good question.
Wow, this is a tricky
tough one, too.
This is a tricky one because I'm
It's
gonna.
crazy. Half these people won't even know the names. It's like, read a book. You're not Canadian.
Well, it's an interesting question. I did love Paul Martin, as he was short-lived as prime minister, as we know, but he introduced the Kelowna Accord as a concept, which was a step toward reconciliation in our country, something that we talk about a lot still. He had a really big heart. He's just somebody like, he was successful in business. His family has a shipbuilding company and that kind of thing. But you look at that guy and you're like, this is a guy who just seems to love Canadians, loves Canada.
Yeah.
And I was always really drawn to him as a prime minister. It's hard to put into words. Retrospectively, Stephen Harper, I really appreciated as a prime minister.
Thank
I know,
you.
as a conservative, he had to lead Canada through some very difficult times, financial crisis, and
War in Iraq.
yeah, absolutely. And Chrétien, to his credit, made the right call there in terms of not going to that war,
Yep.
and that's one of the things that we're dealing with now. Like Canada's always struggled. When do we get the opportunity to diverge from U.S. policy? And that was a moment where I think a lot of people felt really proud to be Canadian, whether they liked Chrétien or not. That specific decision was really unifying because it was like, yeah, you know what? The WMD, maybe that wasn't real. Maybe that was a bit...
He called it a phony war recently.
Right. And so he kept us out of that war, and that's a war that a lot of conservatives around the world have felt like was not appropriate. And, and Chrétien was a liberal, and I think...
And Paul Martin was too.
Right. So there's 3. I'd have to think about the other one, but maybe I'm kind of naming prime ministers in my my immediate
Martin,
lifetime.
Stephen Harper,
I could dig into
Chrétien.
the history books, and there's so many that have played a massive role. Like I'm a member of the Rideau Club in Ottawa. It's a business club, and it was founded by Sir John A. Macdonald 2 years before Confederation. To bring together the French and the English, and to forge a nation, build a railroad, just knowing how hard it is to run a hat company now, I could tell you like that is, we're here in Canada today because of that, and if we have pride in this country, which we do, we love this country, in a big way, we owe it to the people who built it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore prime ministers for Canada?
Oh, that's for later conversation. That's for later conversation. But for now, I want to thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, guys.
What did you call it? An instrument of
War!
Of taking.
No, and that's one thing actually I want to think. Trump thinks in terms of business, right? And I think a lot of people, the political class has been really thinking about it as like fight and war and that kind of thing. But
This is the Canadian way, by the way.
this is it, So I think it's a small act of defiant patriotism for big bluster.
Hell yeah. And that's it. This is Steady Mobbin Podcast. The episode is called Explain That with Glory. And to my far right,
I thought you were pointing to him.
to my far right, I have.
Liam Mooney.
Yeah, we haven't rehearsed this one bit.
It's okay.
It's all good.
It's okay.
And
Thank you, guys.
This is Steady Mobbin. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for the hats.
My pleasure.
Guys.
Our pleasure.
What's the website?
strongandfreehat.ca. Don't go to one of those copycat sites because
Yes.
they're out there.
Really?
And
Yes.
I've been following a bunch of you guys on my feed on IG. Like, some of the guys, calm down. Like, this is the real deal.
strongandfreehat.ca. And we're going to have actually completely made in Canada hats soon in the store.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
We out. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you kindly.
Trudeau, 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 and Trudeau. That's my Mount Rushmore.
Music there's a couple of emotions. Yeah, food creates emotion because when you're hungry, you want the food that you want. Friends create emotion because when you go and you hang out with your friends and you go and have a good time with your friends. And especially if they're your old friends, so they have history on you for time. But music, why do you think all these older people sit there and still listen to 70s classic rock? Because they remember where they were on that moment when that song was playing. And they remember, because I remember the first time I ever heard Who Shot Ya from Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, I love that track.
Yo, is that audio fucking good on that? We'll fucking wing it. We're gonna wing it.